in the woods again with Night Danger. I'm back in the aforementioned orchard clearing. It's a nice breezy day. I can't do a widescreen aspect ratio filming today because I don't have anything to reasonably prop my phone up sideways on. And so I have my phone propped vertically. Maybe in the future, all Night Danger videos will be in not just 1-to-1 time, but 1-to-1 aspect ratio. This is hopefully going to be not too long of a video. I want to talk a bit, this is a bit of a story time, about solo games. Because I was listening to Bacon Gaming's most recent stream where he talks about solo games with his friend Jax. And I really feel like the essence of what is occurring during solo play is very poorly communicated and misunderstood on the internet. And a big part of this is the culture of streaming games, actual plays, that sort of thing. So I'll explain why I don't think you can stream a solo game, and then I will explain what one of my solo games was like to show how strongly it overlaps with group play and how I do think it is the same. It's not the exact same expression of the activity, but both activities are most certainly role-playing games. We haven't ventured off when we solo game into the realm of just a writing exercise or a journaling game. So, the problem with streaming or making a video showing you play a game solo is that the presence of an audience is not solo. And what I mean by that is that if I film myself playing a solo game and I'm talking about what I'm doing, I'm explaining what I'm doing, I'm speaking to the audience. I'm not immersed. I'm not role-playing at this point. I am guiding the audience through a series of random tables to produce behavior in these characters, and these characters are being observed both by me and by the audience. But to truly be alone, to truly play by yourself, you're going to wind up able to immerse yourself in the character. And yeah, the mind, what goes on in your head when you're thinking to yourself, when you're playing a game by yourself, is not transmittable to an audience. The inner monologue, at least for me, is not a consistent stream of logical, discrete sentences. It ebbs and flows and integrates images and sounds, and yeah, it's not something that can be shared. And that's why it's called solo gaming. I think that inevitably, if you stream a solo game, or if you record a solo game for an audience, you stop role-playing and you start playing a board game. Yeah. So, but after the fact, you can talk about what happened. So I want to describe a game that I played. I was using OD&D, just the original 1974 rules, with a couple additions. Namely, I was playing in the City-State of the Invincible Overlord, the classic Judges Guild module. And in that module, there's a couple little house rules that integrate what's going on more completely into the setting. So, started with character creation. I'm rolling up. I knew that I wanted to have a couple characters together, just from a survivability perspective. The encounters in City State are not intended to be handled by a single roguish hero. It assumes a party. And so I figured I'd whip up a pair of characters and I'd look at the two of them and I'd decide which one was my character, which one was the character that I would be playing. And the other one would have his behavior determined by oracles and tables and the like. He would be an NPC. I get two characters. The first, a fighter with an extremely high social rank and no money. He's got low intelligence, low wisdom, moderate physical stats, and average charisma. But he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And I'm like, well, he's an idiot. He's new to town, because this is something that I had established, is I'd never played in the city-state. And so I wanted the characters to be new to the city as I was new to the city, so that the discovery that the characters were experiencing was synchronous with the discovery of the city that I was experiencing. He's new to town. He's kind of an idiot. He's got high social rank, but no money. This sounds like a rich kid cut off by his father and striking off on his own, doing his own thing. So Sir Yan Trao was born. And then I rolled another character, a magic user, who was quite smart, quite competent, not great in a fight, but clever and charismatic, charming, and very, 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 very low social status. And I thought, well, this is Sir Yan Trao's manservant / potentially former tutor. And he's been tasked with keeping an eye on Sir Yan Trao until he smartens up and is willing to come back to the family manor. And I immediately decided that this magic user, Zaanool was going to be my character. The idea of an impulsive, kind of stupid young man in Sir Yan Trao sounded like a great way for the oracles to create problems for me that I would have to solve if it's my job to keep an eye on and babysit this idiot. And so I have the characters. I have my main character, who I'm playing, and I have the NPC who's there to kind of round out the party. And at this point, how City State assumes you'll play is that you'll crawl through the city like you would crawl through a dungeon, which is to say 10-minute turns, moving through streets, checking out businesses, interacting with NPCs, and each street has its own random encounter tables or possibility for events. There's chances to get mugged or accosted by nobles. So it's really quite a robust little book for how slim it is. And so, over the next 4 hours or so, I played through this city crawl, checking for encounters, using reaction rolls. And the whole time, I'm not thinking, oh, I'll move the party over here, or we'll do this. In my mind, what's going on is, I am Zaanool the wizard. I have no money. And I have this stupid upstart that I have to keep. I have to take care of. Because he can't take care of himself. Because he's a fool. And so, the first thing I do is I check how much money we have. And I set out to find lodging. And we find lodging. And then once I find lodging, then I'm going and looking for work. I'm looking for a way for us to earn some money, because we're going to run out very soon. And at no point in that 4-hour session, maybe some other time I can talk about what tools I use in terms of oracles and whatnot, but at no point am I thinking, what's the satisfying story? What's the narrative beat that I want to achieve? I have my character, I have the setting, and the setting is well established and has procedures for producing events. And I'm imagining myself as Zaanool the Wizard and playing out the things that happen to me. It's like a 4-step process. Step 1, receive data about the game world. I enter a new street, I see what businesses are there, I potentially get a random encounter. So step 1, receive data. Step 2, I respond to that new data. I decide, oh, this street doesn't have anything useful for me, or, oh, I'm being accosted by hooligans, or, somebody's stolen my wallet, whatever. And I take action. I do what you would do in a normal game of the GM asking, what do you do? And then I do it. And then, step 3, there's dice, adjudication, what happens as a result. And then step 4, you go back to step 1. You repeat the process. This, I disagree with the comparisons to choose your own adventure books, because there is no script, there is no plot, there is no intended outcomes or intended narrative structures. There's a game world and the characters who inhabit it. And what's interesting about this is that when I say that there's the game world and the characters who inhabit it, it's very much, it was an OD&D, it's an older school game. Zaanool got mugged by gladiators and died destitute on the streets 3 days into his adventuring career. And I didn't want to take over Sir Yantral, and so I started over and rolled up new characters and tried again. And over the course of a couple months, I was maybe once a week sitting down to play for an hour or 2 or 3 in the city-state. And characters came and went. Plots emerged the way they would in a normal group environment, which is to say an NPC paired with a particular outcome or event from the tables emerges and produces some kind of interesting conflict or drama. Reaction tables determine my relationship, or rather, not my relationship, my initial impressions with various NPCs and how they choose to interact with me. And yeah, there was no meaningful distinction as a player for me between how I was playing my characters in the city-state by myself versus how I play my characters when I sit down at a table with my friends. The only difference is that instead of having to relay what I do to a GM, I simply think it to myself. And instead of having the GM roll on tables or make adjudications and tell me what happens, I simply consult the oracles. It's, on the player side, it's a nearly identical activity to playing with just one player and one GM. The only difference is there's a peace, there's a quiet solitude, and there's something deeply immersive about the entire game world and all the characters existing entirely in your mind in a way that you do not have to explain to other players. When you run the game or play it with other people, there's always the risk that your descriptions of events, locations, or characters is not going to convey the same thing. When the GM describes a room, what I'm imagining and what the GM is imagining are generally going to diverge to an extent. But when I play by myself, there's a unity of vision. And I've had just probably some of the most dynamic and interesting role-playing experiences of the last couple of years at my desk with my books, my dice. And no background music, no cell phone, no, but I could never convey that to another person. I could never play a game by myself and show you what I was doing and explain how I was doing it, because it would entirely soil the experience for me. The introduction of an audience is the introduction of another, and then I'm not solo anymore. I think I've gotten my point across, or at least most of it. I think the big thing is that it does require a degree of self-discipline to not fake it, to not say, oh, well, that hit would have killed my character, so maybe I'll re-roll damage or I'll re-roll. No, you live and die by the oracles and by the dice, because otherwise you're just sitting around imagining stuff. You're not actually playing a game, and you're not really role-playing either, because now you're making decisions on an external meta-narrative consideration and not making decisions based on the considerations of what your character would do, who your character is, and what your character wants. So, this actually went on a little longer than I generally like to, and it's a bit rambly. I don't normally like telling stories about my games. I think it's boring to hear when other people talk about their games. But I really think that describing what I do at the table is the only way to convey what's happening to another person. I can't show you. I can only tell you about it after the fact. There's Midnight Danger. Maybe we can get Watson here. Maybe he can come in. Maybe he'll show his face. He hasn't been on camera for the last couple of videos. And I'm told that people like the dog. Hey. Yeah. And have yourselves a lovely day.